think when we get onto the dogs and cats, I tend to step back. I think, why? You know, you've enjoyed this animal, particularly with a dog, it's been with you for a long time, it's your buddy, you know. So I think for various reasons, I think maybe it's an immediate sentimental thing. People say, oh, I can't have them buried, you know, I really want it preserved. And then I just say to them, well, put it in your freezer, think about it for 6 months, and if you're still as positive, then we can talk about it. And usually after a couple of weeks, the idea's gone off and people have talked them out of it. Celebrating its glory, you just hit it on the head. This is what taxidermy is about. This is why we go into it, because we find, as you saw earlier, a dead kingfisher, and you think the colours on that, the majesty on that, how many people, particularly children, are going to see things like that. Think that a lot of people will be taken back by taxidermy and think, oh God, they're going out killing everything, so we hate you, you know. But the issue I have to get across is I'm not out there knocking birds out trees every day to supply me with items. So as long as people have understood that, then negative views so much these days, we come across very little.
Man may aspire, though in the slough, may dream of glory, strive for fame, thirst for the prestige of a name. And shall these friends that so invite the study of the erudite, ever as he beholds them now, perish like sparks of light.
This is a baby herring gull, and I've skinned it, and then I've cleaned all of the muscles and fat left off of the inside. With a bird, you leave the skull still in there, the wing bones are still in there, and part of the leg bones. And then I've washed it in just fairy liquid, and then just dried it with a hairdryer. So I was at Brighton University doing sculpture, and then when I left and realised I had to get a real job, I decided I wanted to be a taxidermist. Which was a really stupid idea, because it was just as hard as trying to be an artist. So to support me, I just do commercial taxidermy, and I just do things that are flown into people's windows, or I work for artists making props for their work, just things like that. But I won't do anything that's been shot or a trophy, so I do get a lot of requests from people that have, I don't know, like a pheasant on a hunt or something. Most of my clients are women that just really love animals, and they find this beautiful thing and then they just want to have it forever. So that's why they choose me, because I think, quite different to other taxidermists because of how young I am, and I'm female. There's different stages of how people perceive me to be as a person. So if they just see my work, they assume that it's been shot, and then if they meet me, they're confused because I don't look like a stereotypical taxidermist, and then they get confused because they think I've shot it. But then if I start to talk to them about my work, I had one woman that was really angry at me over a rabbit that I had, and I explained to her that I was a vegetarian and that I only do it because I love animals, and that's why I do it, because that just makes the most sense to me. And eventually she came over to what I was saying so much that she picked the rabbit up and started stroking it. So I think that, yes, there's obviously with some people, an initial fright of what I'm doing, but it doesn't take much to make them realise why I'm doing it and to change their mind. Some people don't know anything about taxidermy, and therefore they just see it as something that maybe their grandparents did and had these old animals under their stairs or something. But it's good that there's so much more information about it, like it's in newspapers and more documentaries, because it is giving people a clearer idea of what at least British taxidermists are about. It's definitely popular with young girls mostly, and kind of young men, but it's more of a young girl thing. I don't know whether it's because it's a mixture of like, it's a craft essentially. It's not art. It's craft based. So you follow rules. You can make up your own rules, but you do have to follow rules, and you have to teach your hands how to do it before your brain, so that you can think what you're doing at the same time. So I guess it's a mixture of girls finding something craft based that they enjoy, as well as like a love of animals. And because it's not about shooting the animals anymore, that's maybe why why women find it more interesting than men. I think taxidermy will continue for a long time. It's a really important part of our social history. And I think that, yeah, it's used in a very good way and a very bad way in the artwork. So long as it's represented in a positive light, I think that it will continue to be more experimental and exciting. The laws around taxidermists are getting tighter and tighter, so hopefully it will continue, because the only thing that I'd imagine that would stop it would be all of the environmental laws involved. In some countries you're not actually allowed to pick up any roadkill, so for me I wouldn't be able to have this job. So hopefully it will continue.
But I have talked to people that have been strong animal livers, and I explain what I do, and they still don't like what I do, but they have no argument with me, because when I say, well, you've got a choice of two things. This otter next to me, was roadkill, it was run over. And I will look them in the eye and say, well, why do you drive a car? And I've yet to meet one that actually doesn't drive a car. So they have to sort of walk away with a tail between their legs. But if they don't like what I do, that's fine. But I can fully justify what I do, so I have no problem with that.
A taxidermist will not be doing it for money. They'll be doing it for their love of animals, because you could earn a lot of money if you were absolutely terrible, I suppose, but generally you have to spend a lot of time with these animals, a lot of time studying them, so if you didn't love or respect them, then you wouldn't be any good at all.
As I point out to school children who say, isn't it cruel and nasty, that we all contribute to enormous amount of killings of the wildlife around us, by having cars, by having houses, by having leather shoes, etc., etc., etc. And in fact, the vehicle kills on an annual basis more than 50 Mr. Booths could have even thought about. And we call that natural mortality, which I think is a bit of an ironic statement.
What God hath wrought, thus time shall tell, and thus endowment rich and vast be rescued from the buried past, and rare relics that never fade be in the mannequin portrayed, till taxidermy witness well the debt to science paid.